and welcome to Voices of the Industry, a podcast by the AI Localization Think Tank, which aims to bring diverse voices from our industry to engage in the conversation about how AI is impacting what we do today. Today, we are so lucky to have Nuria Brufau with us.
Thank you, Coral. Hello. Thank you for inviting me to this podcast, and congratulations on launching the think tank. And thank you also for considering other voices, not just people from the industry, but also people from academia, since we are the ones preparing those who will get to your industries in the future.
That's right. Thank you so much. First, let me tell you a little bit about Nuria. Nuria is an accomplished academic, researcher, and translator with over 2 decades of experience. She holds a PhD in translation studies from the University of Salamanca, where she graduated cum laude with a thesis about translation and gender in the era of transnational feminism. Nuria has worked for the last 5 years as a faculty member and lead researcher at the International University of La Rioja, where she also served as academic coordinator for the bachelor's degree in translation and interpreting. As the coordinator of the translation degree, she helped shape the curriculum and focused on making the program both practical and forward-looking. On top of that, she has experience as a literary translation. Her work includes both fiction and non-fiction, from historical and political texts to poetry and best-selling novels. Across all of it, there's a clear thread. She's passionate about giving voice to diverse stories and ideas, and about making sure translation is done with care and with purpose. She has also worked as a machine translation post-editor. And right now, Nuria just completed a major study on how universities in Spain are or are not teaching AI in their translation programs. She looked at the, 31 translation degrees offered across the country, both online and on-site. She analyzed the details of their curriculum, and it's a big piece of work. And that's exactly why we wanted to bring her onto the podcast, to hear firsthand what's happening in our universities and what it might mean for the future of translators in the age of AI. Nuria grew up in Spain, but she has lived pretty much everywhere: Sudan, Israel, Belgium, Madrid, and now she's living in Rome. Nuria, welcome again, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
We will also share some of these links with Nuria's LinkedIn profile and a couple of her latest papers and research conducted on these topics below in the video description, so you can learn more about her research. And I think before we jump into the meaty questions, let's just get to know you a little bit better to break the ice. So can you tell us, maybe from all the countries and cities you lived in, which one was your favorite and why? And maybe one hobby or passion of yours beyond localization?
Wow, it's a difficult question, the first one. It was a very nice question. I couldn't choose one, really. All cities, all countries, everyone I've met have wonderful things to offer. There are cultural differences, which I love, because you learn a lot, and it reminds me, or it should remind us all, that we're not the center of the universe. There are other ways of seeing things, of looking at things, and of doing things, and that's helped me a lot along the way. And I also think that there are also universal feelings, like, I don't know, friendship, love, motherhood, and wherever I've stayed, I've seen that in every person. So I don't know, Khartoum was wonderful, Tel Aviv was wonderful, Belgium, Brussels was wonderful, Madrid is wonderful, it felt like home, of course, and Rome is wonderful too. So I don't know, I invite you all to visit these places. And let me just add my wish for peace, both in Israel and in Sudan at the moment.
That's true. Yeah, of course, we're going to have such an inspiring answer on how each place has left a mark on you, and not just personally, but I guess that's also having an influence on how you teach and how you connect with others, and also how you approach your work as a teacher and as a translator. Having lived and worked in so many different cultures really brings an openness that I think makes someone an exceptional educator. So it's not surprise that your students remember you so fondly. So thank you so much for sharing a little bit about yourself. And I guess before we jump into the questions, can you tell us a little bit more about what you do? Because our listeners maybe are not so familiar with the role of an academic coordinator, and they may be curious about what is it that you've done there.
Yeah, sure. My work has always been multifaceted. I've coordinated this bachelor's degree in translation, but I've also coordinated a master's degree in gender studies when I was in Sudan. I've worked as a teacher outside the university, but I've also been a lecturer in different universities in these countries. I've also taught within the European Commission to Euro parliamentarians, and maybe that's not the right word, but that was that's what just came out. I've also translated books, as you said. I've also post-edited texts, which was quite surprising. That was when I came back to Europe, and I couldn't find a job as a translator, and I found a job as a post-editor that was trendy at the moment, as it is now. And I had to learn a lot about how to post-edit, because it's not exactly the same as translating. And that's a very important point, which I'd like to comment a bit more later on regarding the teaching and learning for our students. As a coordinator, I've always tried to build coherent programs which build on difficulty, so that students find challenges in every academic year. And in particular, in the bachelor's degree in translation, one of my obsessions was to integrate technology as much as I could, as much as it was possible. I have the impression that sometimes there is this technology course, maybe just to learn a bit about computers, then maybe to learn a bit about CAT tools, and that's about it. But if you don't make them use those technologies they've learned, they might forget about them. And when they get to the market, it's useless what you've done. So one of the things we did, for instance, is once they learned CAT tools, we tried to prepare activities, continuous evaluation activities, which included the use of technologies, of those technologies they have learned or they had learned, so that they, at the end of the road, they felt completely comfortable with technologies. And we also encouraged them to use different programs, different software, so that they our lemma was, we want a fearless attitude towards technology, also because things go so fast that even if you teach them one particular software at a particular moment, 2 years later, that might change. And they should be ready and willing to discover, to explore by themselves, and to feel comfortable using everything that comes up. So we also worked a lot on core competencies. For instance, we noticed that regardless what everyone expects, when students get to university, they still have trouble. They have problems with their own mother tongue. I don't know, text-wise, but also in terms of spelling. I mean, in the little things and in the big things. So we had to put a lot of effort there too. Also mainstreamed in the different courses, also with extra activities, with extra courses, seminars, and practices. So yeah, I mean, the idea is to build a coherent program, to always think of progression in terms of difficulty, and then to spot what they're going to need in the future and what they like, what they lack when they come to you. And that's always been my way of working.
Wow, it's fascinating. I think a lot of people maybe don't realize how important a role like yours is for the future of the translation studies and the translation industry as a whole, because you are not just coordinating the content, you are shaping how the next generation of translators are trained, how they think, how they face the challenges of a changing industry. So it's so clear from everything that you said that your experience both in the classroom and out in the world has really grounded your approach and how to change the mindsets and start implementing these technologies. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's super interesting and incredibly valuable. I think now that we have a little bit more of context, let's just jump right into the hot questions. So the first question, of course, is going to be about this research that you just conducted. So can you tell us a little bit more about this research? Which areas did you focus on? How was it structured? Maybe can you give us examples of the most common subjects that we are teaching in Spain? In which key areas are those subjects being focused, or what did you find out from this research? What are your conclusions?
Yeah, first it should be said, as you've said it, that this study focuses on the Spanish context, which is the one I'm familiar with, and also that I studied the bachelor's degrees, not the master's degrees, which is a bit different, because in master degrees you can specialize the content a bit more, and if you want to work on literary translation, you go for that. If you want to work specifically on technologies, you go for that, etc. So even you can prepare master's degrees for future researchers, and that's a different perspective. So I focused on bachelor's degrees because that's the level in which we build the foundations of future professionals, let's say. In Spain at the moment, there are 31 bachelor's degrees in translation active, because some of them are about to die because they've changed their programs, and there might be new ones, I don't know. But at the moment, the official website of the ministry shows 31 degrees, which are the ones I've studied. I focused on three ideas, which were my research questions, let's say. The first one, the extent to which technology was part of the curriculum, the extent to which basic courses on translation competence were present, and that's something that worries me a lot in light of all the changes which are coming with artificial intelligence at the moment. And also whether students were getting real-world experience through internships in companies. As for the first question, all degrees include a CAT Tools course, also because it is compulsory in a way. There's a reference book which inspires all the degrees, and there's a quality control institution which makes sure that all translation degrees have certain minimums, let's say. So that was something to be expected. What was surprising for me is that only 9 of these 31 bachelor's degrees included machine translation and post-editing courses. Okay. And most of them were not compulsory, so just optional courses. This was very surprising. If we have a look at job descriptions at the moment, it's been years since job descriptions just asked for traditional translators. Maybe if you work as a freelancer, maybe if you work for a very small translation agency or very specialized areas, that can work. But my impression is that big translation companies, which is the trend at the moment, and I have the impression that it's going to be more and more like that the big ones will absorb the small ones more and more. This is what they are asking for. They need experts in machine translation and post-editing. And um, even more with the arrival of artificial intelligence, they need experts in language technologies. And seeing that only 9 of them offer machine translation and post-editing courses, I find it worrying. It is true that then you can choose a master's degree, which helps you with that. But I think at least they have the right to know that that is what the market is asking for at the moment, so that they can make the right choices. It was also surprising to see that only 1 included a course specifically on artificial intelligence. It is true that in 2 or 3 other degrees, you could see language technologies, which is obviously connected with which is needed in artificial intelligence. And in some others, artificial intelligence is mentioned as a tiny part of one of the topics of one's course on technologies. But I think it is not being given the attention it needs at the moment. Also, again, because job descriptions ask for experts in artificial intelligence, as much as that is possible at the moment, because it is all quite recent, but at least familiarized with artificial intelligence. It's true that it should be mainstream, so maybe it's something that should be tackled in all courses from different perspectives, not ethically, technically, etc. But I think that more attention should be paid to artificial intelligence at the moment. My impression is that we're late, and there's much to be done, and we should get to work, really. And also some degrees, 4 I've counted, include courses related to language technologies. I have to say that there's one very nice exception. There's 1 degree, which is even called Translation Studies and Language Technologies, from one university in Madrid. And my impression is that this is the only program which is really up to date with the market at the moment. As for the second question, the extent to which basic courses on the translation competence are present, again, this is more or less compulsory. Not all degrees treat translation competence similarly. Some of them offer a bit more information about translation history or multicultural, from a multicultural perspective. Others more focus a bit more on the translation process, at least what can be seen from their curricula, from their academic programs. Of course, then there's the teacher in the classroom, which can compensate for certain parts of certain needs or certain gaps in the programs. I would like to say that I think it is very, very important that we continue to teach these translation theoretical foundations. Even if we are in the era of artificial intelligence and machine translation, there are some decisions that have to be made before you work with the machine, to know what you want the machine to do for you. And then there are also decisions to be made in terms of what you're going to control at the end of the process. How the solution is, how the product is, and what you're looking for. And for that, you need a translation perspective, in terms of what the public, the target audience needs, all the multicultural aspects in pragmatic terms and in function. I mean, so ideology, even gender perspective, so many things to be taken into account depending on the project. And in terms of real world experience, 18 degrees have internships as compulsory courses, 8 as optional courses. And in some of the ones that did not have specific courses for internships, they had mock translation projects, which are huge translation projects, which could be considered somehow an equivalent of what they would do in a company. it's a question of perspective. I think that maybe with a mock translation project, you can focus on each of the steps and you make sure that that everything is covered, let's say. Everything that is connected to translation projects, the old way, let's say. But I think that at the moment, real world experience in companies is more than ever necessary, or is necessary more than ever. Also because my impression is that lots of things are changing in the industry. I mean, you can surely talk more about that because you're there, first row, and you see what's going on. But my impression is that there are lots of changes at the moment. I mean, you can see that in social media and in companies' web sites.
Yeah,
So
and
these are mainly my discoveries.
it's surprising and not surprising, I guess, at the same time. You know that I've been also helping you a little bit with my opinions on shaping this curriculum, and I'm surprised in a way to see that only 9 out of 31 courses are teaching machine translation. Like, I can imagine AI is still quite new and it takes forever to change the curricula on universities from
Yeah.
even from a bureaucratic point of view.
Yeah.
But machine translation has been with us for a while.
Yeah.
So I thought about asking you if you think there's a gap between the training and the graduates, um, and the training of the graduates and what the translation companies need. But you mentioned already job descriptions, and I guess that you do think that there's this gap, even if the other competencies around um, getting your theoretical background on what translation is and how translation is done, it's there, and that is a skill that's already needed. But in terms of AI, I guess you you think you already said that you see this gap between what
Yeah.
students learn and what translation companies need. But if you can talk a little bit more about that gap and maybe also what is needed, or you think the university is maybe up to date, what is needed for universities to get up to speed?
That's a difficult question. Um, I would like to say various things. First, that it would be unfair to say that universities are the only ones responsible for the professionalization of our students. I think that there's a part that should be done within the industries. I mean, it's impossible for us because we're not there. And our hands are full educating people also to become responsible citizens. We do more than just prepare students to become professionals for the market. So that's one thing that should be said. And we actually work a lot, and in my opinion, this is well done generally in universities. As far as I know, as far as I've seen in universities where I've worked all around the world, I mean, at least in Sudan, Israel, etc., etc., and of course in Spain. Critical thinking, I don't know, and analysis of situations. This comes in the pack. I mean, it's part and parcel of what translation studies is, and this is. My opinion is this is well done, and this is something that is expected from universities, and you should not take that from us. Otherwise, we would be preparing robots for the market and not responsible citizens. That's the first thing, which is particularly important in the era of artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Having said that, it's also true that the other responsibility that we have is to try to prepare our graduates for the market they're going to find, because they need a job, they need to eat, they need to they have a right, or the right to have a life, to build families, to eat, to find something in their bank account at the end of the month, and to grow in those jobs. So in that sense, in my opinion, one of the things that we should work on a bit harder is the integration of technologies.
Mhm.
Clearly, we have to mainstream technology. We have to mainstream artificial intelligence, and that does not mean just putting computers in classrooms and allowing students to have ChatGPT accounts, paid accounts. That's not the idea. We have to educate students in the use of technologies and in the use of artificial intelligence. There are frameworks coming out that could be helpful. The UNESCO framework, the European Commission has just launched a draft also. It's true that it's for primary studies or secondary studies, but some ideas could be taken from that document too. And there are other think tanks related to education that are also proposing how to work on this AI literacy, AI competency, which is so much needed. As for the other technologies, those related to language technologies, I find that one of the challenges that we have is that not everyone knows what's going on. Um, I'd love to have, when we were younger and we had this Erasmus programs and you could go to other universities and think and see what was going on and learn from other teachers. I would love that companies would allow us teachers to go, I don't know, I would call them come and see internships for academics. Just let us get, go there and be like a shadow for some days and let us see what you're doing, because we're also good at spotting what competencies are needed when we see what job is being done. But if we don't know what's going on, it's very difficult for us. I even have the impression that not even industries have a clear idea of what they're looking for. Like we're all running like chicken without head here and there. And maybe a closer collaboration would benefit both of us, both sides. For us academics at the moment, I think it's our responsibility to teach, but before that comes the responsibility to learn. And for that, we need institutional support. It's not fair that we all have to pay our own AI courses here and there, not really knowing which one to choose. Maybe some effort could be done from within the institutions, the academic institutions, to help academics, or at least some of them. I know there's always colleagues which are there, which are very updated, which are very familiar as with what's going on for different reasons, because of their research or because of their area of knowledge. But in some of the cases, it's a bit difficult. There's a lack of awareness. I fear there is a lack of awareness.
And I liked also what you said, that the university is not the only responsible one. I think everybody has to be a little bit responsible for themselves in a way. I cannot blame. Yeah, I graduated a bit more than 10 years ago, and I cannot blame my professors for not teaching me AI. AI was not there when I graduated, so then it's also up to me to upskill in that way. And I loved also the idea, the shadowing Erasmus program, where academic was there shadowing somebody in the industry. I think everybody could learn so much from everybody, even once you have your own job in the industry. It's having that collaboration with a professor and knowing how to we have to communicate with people all the time, and maybe an external person could also bring an external view. I think it's there could be so many ways from industry offering more internships, like you mentioned, that not all universities have the luxury of having internship. They have these mock translation projects, or partnering, having people that are already working in the industry coming back and telling their professors what is it they are seeing, what is it that was useful for them, what was not useful for them, and having this feedback loop a little bit with the people that graduated already and are in the industry. think those are good methods that we could
Yeah.
implement to.
Yeah, the role you just mentioned it. The role of the alumni is fundamental.
Mhm.
But not all universities have good alumni programs. Staying, keeping in touch with your own graduates, helping them also to upskill in some cases, but also using them to come and tell us what's going on. That's also a wonderful idea. Absolutely right.
And just in 2 minutes, if you could choose, so we're talking about upskilling. What skills do you think are needed today? We talk a lot about soft skills, of course,
Oof, yeah.
technical skills. Um, can you give us a short answer on what
Oh.
skills you think we need?
Soft skills are a must. In general, but also and specifically today, in a time of change, this can save these skills can save your life. As you say, we want curious graduates. We want graduates who are able to learn by themselves, who can explore by themselves, also who can analyze critically, who can solve problems, can think creatively, to find solutions, because this is what you're doing now, finding language solutions for companies which go to you or come to you with a problem. No, I have this problem, find a solution for me. That requires critical thinking, creative thinking, and problem solving. So also teamwork,
Uh-huh.
collaboration, being open to other ideas, trying to see what the other can say that can uh, help me see things differently, to think outside the box, etc., etc. So soft skills are a must, absolutely. Again, having said that, soft skills are not enough. We also need core competencies in translation and in language control, etc., etc., and also technologies.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Technologies are also a must. Again, not just knowing what technologies are working at the moment and how to use them, but also what they are, what they can do, how they can harm, how can do good. So it's AI literacy and technology competency as a whole, I would say.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Nuria, for sharing your insights with us today. I think this research has opened up a really important conversation, not just about how AI is or isn't present in the translation programs, at least in Spain right now, but also about how to prepare the next generation of translators for a world that's changing faster than ever. And I guess that soft skills will be really important for us to be able to adapt, at least to adapt to something that we don't know what's going to be happening, right? So it's clear from everything that you said that the challenges are real. The universities are being asked to do a lot, and the expectations from the industry are evolving rapidly. But it's also clear that there's a lot of thought and thoughtful work being done, and there's a lot of people like you who are just not just asking the hard questions, but also actively looking for answers, for solutions. And I hope today's conversation inspires our listeners to keep this dialogue going. And if any alumni wants to go back to universities with feedback and help them shape the new translators that are now studying, I guess every university will also appreciate that now. So thank you again, Nuria.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.